Top 5 Best presents Desperate Dad has gut feeling about missing teen son, hires helicopter for $800, and sees a car wreck. Before we begin, do us a favor by clicking that like button and subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories like this one every day. Throughout history, we've heard tales about the connections between parents and their children, and oftentimes the focus is placed on the fierceness of a protective mother, with the term Mama Bear being the focus of memes, films, and at least one book called Fierce Love. It's a Mama Bear thing. And there's certainly no denying that a protective mother is a force to be reckoned with. But at the end of the day, anybody who fears for their child's life is going to do whatever it takes to protect them. Today we're going to hear a story about one father's determination and how it helped save the life of his son. Newcastle is a major city in New South Wales, along the southeastern coast of Australia. While it is home to a bustling metropolitan area, it also features at least one major greenbelt, which designates large portions of lands to wilderness and conservation. This means that you can easily get lost in a crowd or the wilderness at any given day. It also means that there are portions that are extremely difficult to access for those involved in law enforcement and search and rescue. Tony and Lee Lethbridge raised their son Samuel in the area and were more than familiar with the challenges posed by the wilderness. So when Samuel wouldn't reply to their many messages and phone calls, they became worried. After their attempts to reach him went unanswered, they waited patiently, but when he didn't make it home Sunday night, they knew something went wrong. Panic-stricken, they contacted the police to report their son's disappearance. Police took their information and asked them to wait at home, but the uncertainty was tearing them apart. Tony couldn't sleep and ended up driving around late into the evening hunting for his son. He couldn't fight a haunting gut feeling that Samuel had crashed his vehicle. It was during his own search that Tony remembered a recent news story about another young man who had crashed along the Pacific Highway, along the exact same stretch that Samuel would have been traveling to return home. In that case, the young man had been missing 5 days before authorities discovered his vehicle. Sadly, he had died sometime in the aftermath of the crash. Tony couldn't shake the story from his mind, and finally he decided to take action. He explained his decision, saying, quote, "With the way the bush is there, if a car goes in, you're not gonna see it. The only way you'll see it is from the air." And that's what we did. I said to my wife, "I'm not gonna wait any longer. I'm gonna hire a helicopter." So Tony turned to Skyline Aviation Group. Skyline Aviation specializes in helicopter rentals for sightseeing and tours, but they also provide them for services such as aerial photography, spraying, and land survey. For $800, Tony hired a pilot and an aircraft, but there was one problem. Tony is terrified of flying. That was when Samuel's uncle, Michael Lethbridge, stepped up and offered to go. With the other story fresh in their mind, Tony knew exactly where he wanted them to start looking. Just 10 minutes after takeoff, Michael spotted the wreckage along the side of the Pacific Highway just outside Newcastle. Michael contacted Tony, who immediately began to drive out to the site. The area was covered in thick vegetation, and the crash wouldn't have been visible from the road. But from their vantage point in the helicopter, there was no doubt in Michael's mind that this was his nephew's car. By the time Tony arrived at the site, the helicopter had just touched down. When his father reached the vehicle, Samuel had been trapped for over 30 hours. He was severely dehydrated and seriously injured. When he reached the vehicle, Tony grabbed his son and said, "Dad's got you." To which his son replied, "I'd love a drink." When emergency services arrived on the scene, they were forced to cut him out of the vehicle due to the amount of damage. Once they were able to remove him and assess the injuries, they realized just how lucky he had been to survive it all. Apart from being shaken and hungry, he had a broken arm and multiple injuries to his leg and back. He also had a severely broken thigh bone that protruded nearly 3 inches out of the skin. Samuel's friend acknowledged that he was tired the night of the crash, and sleep deprivation could have been the factor. In the days following the crash, an online fundraiser was established to aid with the cost of his health care, and Skyline Aviation fully refunded the $800 as a way to show their support for the family. Australia's roads see thousands of fatalities every year, with several stretches of the Pacific Coast Highway routinely being listed among the worst roads in the country. And quite often, the biggest danger is dying of exposure before rescue crews can even reach the scene. Luckily for Samuel, his family refused to give up, and because of their efforts, he's alive and gets to share his harrowing story. Thanks for watching. Tap one of the 2 videos on the screen for another amazing story.